A very good evening from the UK. Good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're joining from, any parts of the world. I think on behalf of Like Minds, I want to welcome every one of you for today's webinar. We are delighted that you could join us this evening. Your presence shows that you are truly thinking strategically and about your future, about the rapid changing world of work today. Over the past 5 years, I think that should be since COVID, remote working has evolved from being just a niche or flexible option to becoming a mainstream global employment model. Organizations across the industries are now hiring talents beyond borders, creating opportunities that were previously limited by geography. The benefits are significant: increased flexibility, access to global employers, improved work-life balance, reduced commuting costs, and ability to truly build an international careers. However, while opportunities have expanded in remote working, competition has also increased significantly, and success requires preparation, positioning, and practical knowledge. Tonight, this evening, or this afternoon, or this morning, wherever you are based, we're going to be looking at unlocking your future by succeeding in remote work. We're looking at tools, platform, and best practices. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Naomi Okwara, a remote working recruitment specialist and experienced operations and program delivery manager with strong expertise in digital delivery, HR transformation, and remote working environment. She's known for breaking down complex remote working concepts into clear, actionable frameworks that empowers professionals to thrive in today's digital workspace. We're truly pleased to have Naomi with us today. So without any further ado, we want to invite Naomi. The floor is yours for the presentation.
Thank you so much, Mr. John. Good evening, everyone. My name is Olumanami Okwara, and just wanted to confirm, everyone, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes,
Okay,
we can.
Yes, we can
perfect.
hear you. Good evening, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Oluma Okwara. As I said, I am a renowned talent acquisition specialist. I have a background in finance, HR, operations, and just a professional overall program manager. I've championed several recruitment processes end to end that were involved preparing candidates for high skilled job, low skilled remote roles, both within the region that they're based and abroad, helping candidates and hiring managers navigate global remote market sites, focusing on CV specification, optimizing for specific roles, and kind of giving like a deep dive into the internal processes that require going from a candidate to an actual employee within an organization. What practical tools and systems are available for you to access, what required training will help you thrive in the actual working environment, and just a handful of best practices to keep in mind as a professional. So during the course of this session, I will be doing a deep dive into remote working, as Mr. John has said earlier, sharing obviously insights in more detail as to what is important for success in in the remote working space. Without further ado, I will start sharing my screen with a couple of slides that I have curated specifically for this meeting. And if during the session you have any thoughts, please feel free to put them in the chat. We will have some testimonials and a further Q&A specific dedicated timeline towards the end of the session. So do not feel like any question is too small or unimportant. This is a open space that we've all come to learn and to really take away something productive from this meeting. And actually, a big shout out to Like Minds for providing this platform for us to have a free session of this sort for people to benefit from and for attendees to actually help attendees towards the goal of achieving a career progression in the remote working space. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And if you're having any technical issues or if you cannot see, please do let me know before we progress and we can sort of make sure everyone is on board and everyone is benefiting at the same space. Thank you. Okay, can you see my screen? Is everyone able to see my screen, please?
Say yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Right, so thank you, everyone. So, as I said earlier, we will be going into sort of what it entails to unlock the future in succeeding in remote working environments. We're looking at tools, platform, and just overall best practices that will help anyone going from entry level role to even a more higher level C-level roles to succeed in a remote working environment. And as I said earlier, this is all courtesy of Light Minds Network. So everything that we discussed in this seminar will be made available in terms of materials for your reference and also links that will be provided following the end of the session for you to actually access remote jobs. So to start, what is the reality of the remote working environment? Really, remote working is as simple as the name goes, as the name makes it into with regards to being able to complete and deliver value for a job that you've been hired to take on within your domain location and not necessarily having to travel to the work location or where the company is situated. So you don't necessarily need to be in a brick and mortar within the four walls of a company for you to be able to deliver value and to succeed in your job position. Employers technically hire internationally for skills purposes because there's a more diverse pool of skills and as well as cost efficiency. Some regions cost a lot less than others when it comes to certain skill sets, and we'll actually come down to some other intricacies around those type of nuances when it comes to hiring. And also, remote working gives you like a complete global stage to really compete in. So you're getting talent from all across the world, and people can kind of weigh in their value on a more global scale and it gives you a wider sense of appreciation for the working environment. So you're not limited to just the pool of candidates where you are domicile or where your domain location is. You are actually being exposed to like the global market and global competitors, which I think is an amazing thing for career progression. So in this reality, it also opens you up to the fact that you will not just be competing with people in your home country, you will also be competing with people in other regions that are able to apply for those jobs. So also that also prompts the interest in researching further beyond the role. It opens your mind to also learning more about the region itself and all the other contributing factors and mitigating factors that go into working for that role specifically. Where the remote job exists, this is following from what we've just discussed. Understanding that you're coming into a global market is one thing, but actually knowing where in those markets to find and obtain those jobs is a different side of the equation. So now there are certain sectors that actually might not support remote roles. So this is where you have to self-assess and ask whether or not your sector or where your area of specialization actually permits remote working. Obviously, from the top down, we have technology, the digital space in general, everything to do with IT, cloud infrastructure. Those are all like really, really um, prominent areas for remote working because they allow you to provide value without necessarily being physically present within the working space. We also have roles like customer support where you can offer um, your skills in the way of supporting clients that are contracted by the customer and giving them the support that they need to enjoy the client's service or product, whichever way that that goes. You have the marketing and content creation space and HR and recruitment. Some of these areas also have other sort of roles affiliated within those within those sectors. So, for example, being a digital virtual assistant or a digital assistant, where you're able to support someone digitally managing calendars, managing events, planning, and scheduling. And things like that go into sort of the same sectors as operations. And then you have HR and recruitment. Now, these sectors provide or support remote working in some of the functions with regards to candidate screening, um, recruitment calls, sending chaser emails, and just sort of whole round admin setup where you're actually able to complete end-to-end tasks without necessarily being physically present in the workspace. Another sector that is great for remote working is finance and data sectors. I don't know if anyone is familiar with the data sorting and data administration, where you're able to filter data, clean data, and just sort of do whatever is required for the clients in regards to managing their data. This is a very, very common this is a very, very common job role in the remote working space. You get training for it because each client's requirement is different, and that is a very, very common job role within the remote working space. You also have finance and healthcare, but more specifically, healthcare administration. Obviously, without really overflogging healthcare, we all know that um, doctors and healthcare practitioners need to have physical contact with the clients or with the patients. So not necessarily like would they be able to work remotely. However, there's administrative tasks that need completing within the healthcare field, and this is where remote workers are sourced for those sort of jobs. In addition, there is also like freelancing, general contractors, people that are hired outside of a 9 to 5 setup or outside of a full employment contract. Now, these type of workers are technically remote workers. However, because of the nature of the employment, they don't necessarily fall under like a full-time employee. Say, for example, so freelancers include like maybe web developers that are able to provide their own personal portfolio to the customers or to the businesses that want to hire them, and then they go about the project that they are contracted for. Now, what this means also is that you can be able to work remotely. However, you are not contracted to specific work hours or specific pay. So you are not salaried, you are not held permanently by the company. You're actually able to do other work alongside the job that the company's hired you for. Whereas if you're working as a full remote worker, you actually have your hours contracted to that company, and you are required to provide them your time and availability in all manners efficient during your working hours. Another type of remote role would be the remote first companies and the hybrid remotes. Now, these tend to be sort of 50-50 in the sense that you would be required to work hybrid from a primary work location. Now, your primary work location might require you to show up maybe once or twice a week or once every week for four times a month, depending on the nature of the service that the company is providing or the role requirements that you've been contracted for. So far, we've touched on like the types of remote roles, and some of these might be a bit more um, personalized depending on the nature of your situation as well. So say for example, you have a hybrid remote role and the company has a policy that you must be in the office twice a week. If say for example, you're as a worker, you become pregnant, there is maternity benefits wherein your hybrid work plan might be changed to actually accommodate your life change as well, your life changes as well. So say for example, you will not now be required to come in as you were initially contracted to do, and then after your maternity period ends, you just obviously go back to your working plan, your usual working plan. So those are some of the nuances that exist in this type of depending on the type of remote role that you're contracted for. Another key point for working in remote jobs is the positioning of the role. So for you to be able to thrive and succeed in remote working environment, you need to have a clear focus and a clear target about the role that you have applied for. What do I mean by that? So is this a role specific for you, or is this just a role that you're willing to fill because it is remote? Those are some of the things that we need to define. We also need to look at building a CV ready remote. So what is a CV ready remote? It's not necessarily too different from a normal CV. However, you would need to highlight certain key items on your CV. Say, for example, collaboration tools. You would want to include those so that the recruiter sees that you're able to actually function without being present in a way that allows you to work remotely. So you would include collaboration tools, you would include productivity tools. Some of them I would also still touch on a bit further down the line. You'd be able to show global availability. So you can, for example, if there's a region specific roles which we'll come to, you might want to highlight your region on your CV for this particular scenario. If you're able to also work within flexible hours, then obviously this is something that you want your CV to project. And then finally, be able to demonstrate your remote capabilities. So, for example, if you've had a situation where you've been able to provide value without necessarily being present, you would also want to include that I was able to get X, Y, and Z number of candidates to a client that needed them by just making several phone calls. That is something that recruiters take into consideration and not necessarily all the buzzwords. So we're going into CV optimization for remote roles. So some of the things that I wanted to sort of share in this at this stage of this meeting was regarding the tools specific for working as in a remote space. So you want to include things like Zoom, Slack, ATS systems, CRMs, anything that kind of you're able to comfortably be productive with, and highlight global collaboration as well in the way of understanding what the working culture is for some of these corporations and big companies that hire remote workers. You should be able to use result-based achievements, and this will be I will show you some examples of this in a sample CV that I have prepared for this session as well. Yes, you would get some of this information sent out. Maybe not the exact slides, but you would get a PDF version sent out if that's okay. So can I just continue? Okay. So yes, another key point is being able to emphasize digital workflows. So this also is something that you would show, as I mentioned, I would show you a sample CV that highlights your productivity and being able to tie value to your previous work experience in that way. Then where do we find remote jobs? This is a very, very common question that people ask. Where do I find remote jobs? Is remote jobs something that, requires connection or that requires something particular or something specific? And I am happy to tell you that there is no magic to it. It is all about strategy. There are remote job boards, there are remote first company career pages, there are global recruitment agencies that actually target remote workers because of the nature of the companies that they recruit for. There are startup hiring platforms. I know a lot of you would know about Andela, a lot of you will know about Upwork, and just all around some of these platforms that allow for flexible hiring. There's also professional networks, e.g., like minds, as we have here, that regularly post some of these jobs. So it's all about strategy. If you want to be a remote worker, you have to keep your eye out for what's important for you and what you need to look out for you to get to start working remotely. Um, the job's not going to fall into your lap, but at the same time, it wouldn't necessarily require you doing anything out of the ordinary to achieve it. Right, I have some direct links that we're able to provide you as well after the session. Some of them were listed out here: remote jobs UK, remote writer. Some of these are very region specific. Some of them are direct to the companies itself. If you click on them, it will take you straight to their careers page. And so that gives you even an opportunity to now look at the company, research them, and sort of see what it is that they do, how they deliver value, and then how you can present yourself in an application for the job that you want to send in, that makes you compatible and like the best fit for that role. So I always advise that in as much as you can apply on some of these websites and career pages, it is always best to apply also or directly on the company page, because this is where the recruiters go into firsthand before they visit other external hiring platforms. But not to say that those don't work. Keep an eye out always when you set out to apply for a role, because your response can come from literally anywhere. But these are just some personal tips that I like to share every now and again. Um, I will be taking a short break because we have someone
think
within
we
our
can.
space that wants to
We can.
give you a bit of a teaser and a testimonial and share their experience.
Naomi, I sent you a message on WhatsApp. Have a look.
Oh, okay.
So the
Okay.
person,
Okay, no worries. I can carry on as well, and then we'll get to that later. That's okay. Okay. So just carrying on from where I was where I paused. Remote working. Is there some, sorry, can you see my screen still? Can everyone see my screen still?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, yes, we
Okay,
can.
perfect. I thought I was cut out for a second. Thank you so much. Okay, so just carrying on from where I paused. Remote interview success. Awesome. So how to prepare for success in a remote job interview. Now, as I said, a lot of things that we do in normal hiring process is the same things that prevail in a remote hiring process. However, there's just some key things that you want to project to stand out as a remote worker. Some of these things require you showing autonomy and accountability. Whoever you're hiring, whatever company is hiring you, would love to see that you're disciplined and you are actually able to stay focused and be reliable on the job. This obviously goes without saying, is a no-brainer because they're not going to be physically present with you. So while you don't have to deal with anybody micromanaging you, you also kind of have to self-assess and keep yourself accountable. And this is something that you want to be able to demonstrate in your interview and when speaking to the hiring team. You should be able to communicate clearly. If you have issues with your confidence levels or your vocabulary, maybe for example, you are not very conversant with the words that prevail in that sector, is very, very good practice to always speak to your friends about certain types of jobs or specific types of job actually that you're looking to apply to, because that will help you organically grow and build that confidence that you need. So when you show up to an interview, you're not sounding like a robot, you're not just spitting out buzzwords and technical phrases, you're actually communicating with clarity that they're able to see that you understand what you're talking about because you're demonstrating it in your communication. So actually, as a remote worker, being able to communicate clearly is a big, big part of the process that gets you your foot in the door. So if you're not someone that is able to communicate freely or confidently, I would say like start practicing that. Speak to friends, familiar faces, because that will help you build confidence for when you actually show up to more professional spaces and need to speak up for yourself in that way. Another key tip is sharing remote work examples. So, for example, as I said, even if it's not necessarily like you've had a full-time employment as a remote worker, there are things that we do in our day-to-day and in our other jobs that are transferable skills. So what do I mean by that? These things might not necessarily have been the key focus of your previous experience. However, they would play a pivotal role in getting you towards the goal of achieving your role as a remote worker. Some of these things include just like speaking about times where you've been able to get successfully get from one point to another in a different project, in a personal situation. Believe it or not, those actually count towards being being towards validating you in the role and being um approved for the role. Asking questions, you have to also take into account that your questions have to be relevant in the remote, obviously, if you're interviewing in the remote space that you're coming into. So not necessarily like you can't ask any type of questions, but obviously there are questions that you wouldn't ask inappropriate questions. So anything that's appropriate, obviously always keep that in mind that asking questions always give you access to more information. So do not, what I'm trying to say is basically not to be shy to ask questions. However, keep it respectful and keep it appropriate. Don't ask personal questions or leading questions that are not necessarily relevant for the role that you're applying for. Um, Another key interview culture that I would say is always prepare for interviews. I know that some people are good in speaking in a way that they can show up and they can they are good they have good interpersonal relationship, but it also is appreciated when the interviewer or the hiring manager sees that you've taken time out to actually research the company and actually understand the need that you're coming in to fulfill. Not just, oh, I want to be a remote worker and tell them all the nice things they want to hear about yourself and you don't know anything about them. Because imagine if that was you, you might not necessarily appreciate it too much. So it's always a good takeaway to always research and prepare for the interview in that way. Then you want to stand out in a remote hiring process. And this is without saying, because obviously you are competing at a global level. So picture this: you're applying for a role that somebody in Portugal, for example, is also applying for. You have to think for a second: what will make them pick me over Vanda that's in Portugal, for example? So these are some of the areas that I try to keep in mind. Projecting that you understand and speak the global language, which is goes without saying. There's the principles: time management, discipline, accountability. These are all things that transpire globally, and people would appreciate knowing that you actually value all these principles. If you have a work if your job requires you to show proof of work, then always come prepared with your portfolio. Don't show up with screenshots. I've heard about people coming to interview with screenshots, with just like random text. You have to prepare in advance. If you have compilations or things that you've put out but not necessarily know how to integrate it, reach out to recruiters are very, very helpful in that way. I myself was once a recruiter, so I know that this is something that they are happy to do for you because you make their job of getting you in the door a lot easier. Every recruiter wants to get the candidate from interview or application to hired. Trust me, it adds to their scoreboard and it benefits them. So if you have any sort of things like that you struggle with prior to the interview, always seek help, always seek counsel, raise it, and you're better off doing that to find help, and you would be one step ahead in the game. Also, any sort of remote certifications, if you've got GDPR certifications, data management certifications, there are free ones that I have access to that I'm willing to also like provide you links to. These also provide you an edge over other applicants that don't necessarily have it. Or even if you have it, then it makes a decision making process between you and other applicants even more strategic, and they can see you, and then obviously when that decision comes through, you know that they went with the best candidate for the role. So you're not necessarily putting yourself at a disadvantage by not having all of these things or by not making the right preparations prior to your interview. So far, we've touched on the main aspects of interviewing, understanding what the remote workspace is all about. And now we're down to some of the tools that can actually help you succeed as a remote worker and that you would actually need in a remote work environment for your day to day. Communication, collaboration, project management, productivity, documentation, time zones, and just integration tools. Some of these I've mentioned before. As I said, if you're like in Nigeria, for example, WhatsApp is really common there. You've got Teams, you've got Slack. We have all of these different collaboration and communication tools. The reason why they exist, obviously, you can pick up your phone and ring your boss, but they help with, as I said, um, data management and data protection laws, because if you're working remotely, most likely you'll be working across different regions, and different regions have their laws in place for data safety and data management protocols. So some of this is the reason why we have these tools, because then they have the security of this to manage, and they also report back to the government depending on how high risk or low risk the situation is. They also help with hosting large teams and providing obviously transcript support, in a way of, if you've just had a meeting on Teams, you can refer back to the transcripts, you can record these meetings for reference purposes, but you can't do that over like a mobile telephone call or just like person to person texting. It keeps things within a regulated line of communication, and there is a track record of everything happening for your benefit as well as the employers. So if you need to refer back to anything, as I said, these are the reasons why we have these work tools specifically. Obviously, we have project management tools like Asana, Trello. There's a whole lot of them. We've got productivity, Notion. It's always best to familiarize with some of these tools, because it also shows that your awareness of what prevails in a remote working space. So productivity tools help you manage your time, your workload, your resources, and every other assets that you have access to, and also kind of keeps things in view. So everyone has like a central dashboard of what's happening. Your manager can see the work you've done. You can see any sort of new tasks you're being assigned, and everything is in one integrated space. Documentation, obviously, most people are familiar with Word documents, Google Workspace, Notes apps. You might not necessarily use Notes because that's like on your personal device, but this is just for you as an individual as well, because sometimes you might want to make quick notes, and if you're putting everything in it's not everything that will go into your workspace. For example, there might be things that you want to make notes of just to remind yourself of. That doesn't necessarily go, because then obviously your manager will just be getting like a whole track record of everything and anything in your Google Cloud space. So that's why I've put that in there. Obviously, time zones. There's something called World Time Buddy. If you're in the UK, for example, if you're in USA and your company is in Australia, time management is of the essence. So you have some of these tools like Time Tree, that's another one, Time Buddy, and I'm happy to provide a whole host, but this is just like a summary to give insight as to what you would, need to have in your toolbox as a remote worker. And obviously, final integration tool is Loom. Next, I would also want us to touch on some common pitfalls, red flags, job scams, however you want to call it, in the remote working space. Um, Obviously, being a remote worker has its perks. At the same time, there's also the disadvantages of everything, just like every other thing in life. There's some things that we have to look out for. If someone is requesting for payments before you can apply for a job, that doesn't seem ideal. And a good rule of thumb actually is if it doesn't make sense, if it's not logical, it's probably not real. And you want to kind of investigate that on a personal level or just flat out decline. Unverified recruiters, check recruiters' LinkedIn profile, check the company that they're tied to, make sure that they have traceable links. If someone is trying to headhunt you, you also have a right to request their own background information just for your own clarity purposes. If there is no interview process, it's very unlikely, that that's an actual job. Sometimes you have third-party um, platforms and users online that just want to farm data. So they do a lot of fake remote jobs for those type of motives, and then they put out all these links and people click on them, and before you know it, you're filling out your name, your email address. That's data farming. So you want to always check that the link is a verified source. And a good rule of thumb to know a legitimate website is that it will always have a padlock icon on the link space. So where the link goes into your browser, it should have a padlock icon towards the end of it. And if the padlock is locked, then it is a secure link. It is a secure website. If it's open or unlocked, I don't know if anyone has ever noticed the padlocks on the web link web address of any website you click on. So if, for example, if you go on apple.com right now, you would see the padlock there. Or if you go on, coca-cola.com, for example. So that padlock, when it's locked, in case that it's a secure website and you're good to click on whatever you want to click on that page and follow through with the application process or your research purposes. Unrealistic salaries. If you're getting hired, most remote jobs, I didn't really want to touch on salaries because it's a very, very, very broad topic. But say, for example, there's an average of $10,000 for a customer support administrator, and this is based in Nigeria. But you now start seeing roles that are offering 100K for that same job, but it's not the common salary threshold. That would be an unlikely, an unrealistic salary. So I would want to keep an eye out for such things when looking for jobs or when applying to remote jobs. Crypto only payments. This is something that I personally haven't encountered, but I have heard experiences of people saying that, oh, the company I was going to work for, they said they will only pay me in crypto, or they said they'll pay me in some coins. Yeah, so that would not be ideal because we all understand crypto is not regulated. It's a blockchain platform system, however you want to address it. So if the salary is not coming in your local currency, or the local currency that the company operating or hiring you is situated in, then I would want to inquire more and investigate that more. And if there is no logical end-to-end explanation, that would be a likely scam and a red flag to note in the recruitment process or in the job search process. Further to that, I want to also share some limitations with remote working. So although it is very beneficial and helpful for people in terms of research done by McKinsey and Co. and a lot of other big firms, just to sort of show the correlation between remote working and a better work-life balance, there's also a whole lot of limitations that revolve around it. So depending on your region, and I don't tie this to any specific region because it kind of holds a prejudice stand. However, the last one I would sort of explain why I've put that in there because it is real and people experience it as well. So there is noise factor, there is time zone factor. So for example, if you live in where I live, for example, I live between two big hospitals, so I always get sirens blaring up every 5 to 10 minutes. Obviously, I've filtered my background noise for this call, but just my normal day to day is full of like high level noises. So as a remote worker, I have to find a way to get like microphone that cancels noise, background noise. So that would also show you some, insight as to what you want to consider. Um, but not to say that these limitations will not come up. If you aren't living in that place and for some reason you have to move to a more noisy area, these are some of the things that you might find, mitigating factors that impact your productivity or your efficiency in the job. There's also time zone factor. Um, as I said with my previous example, there's companies in America, for example, that specifically want to hire from regions like Nigeria, just because it helps them maybe I don't know, maybe it helps them cater to their customers or clients there a lot better, or it helps them meet costs, benefits, plans. If you're taking those type of roles, you have to understand that you might be working from 3 a.m. to 12 p.m. just because of the nature of the parent company, where the parent company is located. So understanding that and also preparing mentally to be able to work those hours is something to take into consideration. However, if you're not well equipped for it, it might be a limiting factor for you. Socioeconomic factors also exist, such as politics, our day-to-day life, and other sort of contributing factors around that. Your personal life goals. So, for example, if you start working and all of a sudden, you get married or a family member moves away or moves to you, these are some of the, life changes that could happen. I find with things like this, it's best to communicate them, because it's not like a microphone that you can go and buy and fix that problem. So I think it's always best as soon as you find out to kind of um, reassess your capabilities and your strengths and communicate what you are able to accommodate to your employer. The reason why is obviously, even if you're not able to continue in that line of work because of your life goals or personal changes or challenges, you would be having a mutual termination in a way that the employer is also able to still give you a recommendation. You're still able to go off and find better employment rather than having a negative feedback on your work ethic and everything else is being questioned because something happened that is not within your control. But I find that communication always helps best in this type of situations. Another point, a key area for consideration will be that the career paths do not commonly support remote working. As I said earlier, there's so many client facing roles that actually require people to work face to face in their sector or in their line of profession. And as a nurse, it's highly unlikely that you'd be working remotely. As a midwife, it's very unlikely that you'll be working remotely. However, if you're looking to pivot and you're not looking to continue in that line of work, and this is the reason or the goal behind you, choosing to search out or seek out remote roles, then that is definitely something to take on board. Another area is like legal spaces where if you have to do litigation, if you have to be in court, these cannot, support remote working. It wouldn't be, the kind of areas that you want to look into. But if you still want to stay in your line of work, then you can do further research and deep dive into areas along it that allow you to do so. You might want to maybe come out of the practice and go more into the support, admin, research. Those are some of the areas that would support remote working in this kind of spaces. Another and the final limitation that I want to touch on is just kind of the modern slavery aspect. And this is something that is widely discussed, because a lot of companies that offer remote roles, well, some of them do it for the benefit of their clients in set regions. Ergo, Microsoft coming to Microsoft and establishing Microsoft in Nigeria, Google Africa, they have all these tech hubs that they build to support increasing growing tech talents. But there's also, on the flip side, the opposite of that, which is where exploitation comes in, and the modern slavery bit that I'm talking about, where companies want cheaper labor, not necessarily because they're going to benefit that region, but because they feel like they have an advantage to that. And so they hire people in these regions and for jobs that they would pay way more in their domain country or their domain region, and you have people that are doing the same job and earning what, maybe £10,000, and then you're in your country, you'll be paying somebody £50,000 for that same job. So it's always good to research the role that you're taking up and keep an eye out for important things around, the pay structure, the reason why it's being contracted out, because you can research the companies, you have access to the internet, which is something that you would also need if you're going to work remotely. So use these resources to actually help your situation in a way that benefits you and doesn't put you at a disadvantage. So when you go to these interviews, you can negotiate higher pay, you can offer, you can weigh in your value a bit more. So if you're, say for example, a graphic designer or a web developer, and you have a portfolio that has enough sort of value to compared to what you're being offered, you can challenge that in an interview, or you can counter offer and fight for what you actually deserve to be paid in this type of situation. So these are some of my sort of key points around those limitations. So far, I have shared things around hiring, going through the interview process. I have a sample CV that I want to also share after this slide. But I just wanted to kind of do a round off in terms of, you know, providing a 30-day remote action plan, what needs doing, how to sort of put in task actions for each week. So say, for example, week one, we're going to focus on developing our CV, updating our LinkedIn profiles, optimizing our workflow. And the reason why is because visibility matters. If you're good at baking a cake, for example, and nobody out there knows that you can actually bake a cake, then what good is it if you want to monetize your skills? It's just going to be another expensive hobby that you are good at. So we want to put things like being visible. We want to increase our online presence. So what you need to look at, your CV, post on your profile on LinkedIn. If you're a designer, your portfolio, any sort of value proposition that gives you more visibility in the global space, we want to work on that in week one. Then week two will be focused on applying to remote first companies. What does that mean? When we put out job links in some of the platforms, or when you go online to search for jobs, you want to filter to what it is specifically that you're looking for. Some jobs are remote, yes, but are they for you? That's another question you need to ask. So when I say remote first company, you have to look at what is tailored to your level of expertise. If you're looking at entry level, if you're looking at more mid level, and if you're looking at senior to managerial roles, you have to all define this at this stage and apply with that intuition towards what you actually want to accomplish. And then week three, at this point, we want to be networking. There's a lot of events that would be happening around, obviously, career. Some of them, like this one, might be virtual. If you're not able to attend in person, always make it like a point of duty to show up to virtual spaces. If you can attend in person, that's even more beneficial because you get to meet the minds behind, some of the things that you experience every day and some of the actual people behind the companies that you might be interested in. Believe it or not, I've met some really amazing people in networking spaces. You never know what might happen. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Just because you want to be a remote worker doesn't mean that, you are, you know, you are hindered from going out, from actually meeting people. And if you, for some reason, are impaired from doing that anyways, there is still online spaces, there is seminars, there is meetings. Find a way to get yourself involved. From being online alone, you have access to a lot of information that, might not necessarily require you going out either ways. And then at the fourth stage or week 4, we want to follow up with interview preps, speaking to people, follow ups, reaching out to recruiter. Trust me, this is a big one. Recruiters are human beings like yourself, believe it or not. Even hiring managers, I've reached out to people on LinkedIn that I wasn't even surprised, I wasn't even sure they would respond to me, and they came back quicker than even my friends reply my text messages. And so that is a testament that you always have to, remind yourself that at the end of the day, we're all human beings on this planet. And that's how we actually make things happen, by doing stuff. So interview prep should not, don't make it a heavy thing. I would advise, like, obviously doing it, practicing with your friends, people close to you. If you don't have those, set up like a meeting with yourself, sit in front of the camera. That is another way to get really comfortable in front of the camera. Sit with yourself in an empty meeting, or on your phone at your free time, or whenever you're able to, and just, answer a few questions, ask questions that you'd want to ask in an interview, just in preparation, because if you don't prepare, then you're not equipped for it anyways. And then follow-ups, if you have any messages or anything that, even if you're already interviewing or whatever, if you haven't got an offer, I will still follow up on other applications. Trust me, I've had it where people I know have started a job this week, and they got a better offer because the recruiter responded even after they started, and they said, yeah, I have to put in my notice and go to a better paying job. Because at the end of the day, that's what benefits you, and that's what gets you closer towards your end goal of actually being successful as a remote worker. So these are all some of my tips and some of my key points to keep in mind. And I'm just going to stop sharing my screen with you for a second, and then I'll come back. We'll take a break, and then I'll come back in a few minutes. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I am so excited. I'm looking forward to taking your questions because this has been a really active session. Anthony, thank you so much. Julie, Zeno, Oyse, Ferdinand, Ezekiel, thank you all so much. This has been really engaging. Yetunde, Godwin, Fortune, Ibuko, thank you all so much. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Right, I'm gonna stop sharing now, and then I'll pop back in a second for questions and
Yeah.
comments.
Naomi, hi, thank you. Thanks. That was really fantastic delivery. We will at this junction we're going to have like a testimonial from someone who is already working remotely. And I think that would be very helpful for everyone because sometimes when you hear these things, you think, is it possible actually? Is it possible to get a job from Nigeria, from Niger, from Sudan? Can you get a job in America? Is it actually possible working from home? I think it's high time to listen to somebody and share and learn a few things about the person's experience. I think we'll get to learn a bit more from that experience. I think we have Nelly. Are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I think we want to have a quick chat with Nelly. I think she's the one that would give us an insight into her experience in terms of working from home. I'll just get to ask her a few questions and see if she could provide me with some insight into her experience in working remotely. Um, so, Nelly, can you share a bit about yourself, your background, and about the work you do remotely?
Okay, so thank you so much, John. My name is Nelly. and I'm a business operations generalist with over 13 years of profession. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
so my name is Nelly. I'm a business operations generalist with over 13 years of professional experience across multiple roles: executive support, people operations, client success, project coordination, operations management in general. Before remote work, I spent a decade working locally here in Nigeria, traditional offices, fixed hours, structured environments. But over time, I made a deliberate decision to transition into the global remote space because I did hear quite a number of people were already there. And I now work with US-based companies and international startups earning in US dollars and operating across multiple time zones. Beyond my own remote career, I also partner with Remote Career Blueprints, a structured coaching program that prepares serious professionals to make same transition professionally and properly, and position them strategically so that they can excel in the global talent space.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nelly. You told us already where you're based. Obviously, you're based in Nigeria and you
Yes.
work currently your employer is US based, which is great. And so what what motivated you? You said you previously been working in office-based 9 to 5 or 7 kind of job. So what motivated you to pursue to working remotely? You just stumble
Yeah.
upon it or what happened?
No. First
Drive.
of all, I want my earning power. I needed to succeed. You need to succeed in this country to be able to live comfortably in this country with the economy we have right now. So,
Hmm.
yes, I wanted to earn here. I didn't particularly want to relocate. I just wanted to stay home and I could earn better because I was already hearing about stories of people here earning well. So why couldn't I hit the market as well? So that's exactly what I did. That was my motivation mainly to
Right.
start doing some
Right.
research.
Right. So how did you secure your first remote job? Because it's a big transition from office and to remotely. So how was the experience
Okay,
and how did you secure?
honestly, so honestly, um, I think it was it was one day I went to the office, and I was frustrated and I had had enough, really, because the money wasn't so much. And then, with the Nigerian way of living, you leave very early in the morning, you come back very late at night because of traffic. Yeah, that's not just living. And still the money is still not sufficient.
Hmm.
So first thing I did was I needed to put down my head and do a lot of research. My first role was actually hybrid. It was a Nigerian slash UK company. And then that's when I now learned about the independent contractor, the global talent space, the global talent pool. I learned about all that because I did deep research for like 1 month straight. I sent out so many applications. I optimized my resume. I learned a lot of AI tools and how to work quickly. And then it just started coming. I had the first one, and then it's just continued coming, and it's been a blip.
Am I allowed to mention how many you do right now or should keep quiet on that?
Oh my
Anyway,
God.
I'll keep quiet
Um,
on that. She's
then,
transitioned a few. She done a few.
for,
That is for real,
oh my,
So Nelly, tell me about in your job application process, what do you think made your application to stand out? I know you've done a few already. So what do you think has made your application to stand out and be successful in this remote working?
so for global US companies, the first thing I need to say is that, okay, so I have this exposure because coincidentally, one of my old roles, I was working back end of a global talent pool for a US company. So I was seeing individuals in Pakistan, Kenya, Nigeria, quite a few actually, very bad, and so many other African countries. So when I was asked to pick people to present to certain US clients, there's certain criteria that must stand out. Your video. Your video is what we put in what we typically call a candidate card. We link your video in that candidate card and submit it based on your experience to a US client. Now, when we do that, that video is your first impression to that client. Depending on how you look, your camera, your internet, how you speak, your confidence level, your courage, everything, depending on all of that, that is what makes them say, I want to meet this candidate and start interviews first. So your video, you see, when we see applications, I know as Nigerians, that was very stressful for me at the beginning. When they would tell me submit a 1-minute video or a 2-minute video or do an assessment. I did quite a lot. But the truth is that once you get past it, once the interviews start coming, or once you successfully get into what we call a global talent pool, you're just in a pool and you may just be working your normal jobs and they will just set up an interview for you with a US client. That's how people land jobs. It doesn't happen in a day. It's a period of time. But your first step is your outlook.
Yeah, that's your presentation, right? So doing those videos with use of AI these days, it tends to help to have a very good video. I think using AI tends to be a very, very helpful as regarding more compliant kind of videos. So tell me, what were the challenges you faced when applying for remote jobs? What were the challenges? Because it wasn't easy, right? Especially getting the first break. You talk about talent pool right now. What the challenge you faced before you got to that point whereby, oh yes, they want to somebody you could reckon with you. What the challenges you faced?
Okay, so based on challenges, like when I was researching to get into the remote career world, there are a lot of websites out there. I recall that because I really wanted to, I subscribed to a channel and they were dropping websites and I was applying, but I was not hearing anything. And it wasn't giving me the boost I needed. Some of those sites may work for some people. Some people may have even gotten jobs from those sites drops, But for me, I didn't get, and I felt very bad. So it always made me want to go back to the drawing board because I can't do so much work optimizing my resume, optimizing my LinkedIn, making myself look good, trying my best, doing 1-minute videos 300 times to get the perfect video. And then I am still not coming up. So I kept telling myself I'm doing something wrong. So I kept going back and changing things. I kept doing what I call, Rita?
No, I'm going to meet her now. Go ahead.
I kept doing what I call targeted applications at a time, and it's when I really started doing this that I got into some kind of platforms, got familiar with Global Talent Pool, Global Talent Independent Contractor and all that. And that's how I broke in really. Right now, I am in not less than 6 global talent pools, and they would usually send you emails every week asking you if you're available or not. So because to an extent I became unavailable, I will tell them, no, I'm not available. But once I have any availability, I could send an email to 4 different company global talent pools and tell them I'm currently available. And then within the next couple of weeks, months, depending on my new video and my new resume, they could match me with a client.
You talk about global talent pool a few times now. How do people get into that global talent pool? I don't want to leak out your secret, but just some tips into that.
I'm so sorry, you broke off after you talk about
Okay.
global
How does someone get into that global talent pool?
Like I said, it's the first step is work on your outlook. Work on your outlook. Most of those global talent pools, they went and verified who I say I am. Remember, we are Nigerians. There's an impression that a group of people wrong people have set for a culture of very happy living, good people in general. Now we have to prove ourselves in whatever situation or economy or company we're in. So because of that, your outlook, what your public profile has to stand out. You have to be of good behavior. You have to be very careful of the things you put on social media. You just have to be put together, right? Resume, LinkedIn, whatever is about you on social media, let it be put together because they search. We always do compliance checks for any global talent we're bringing in, so they search. So these are things that could just easily disqualify you.
Fantastic. Yeah, you talked about a few things you need to do in terms of your public image, your global, your branding as such, basically. When people search you online, what do they see about you? And someone asked about LinkedIn and stuff like that. We're going to go into some of those questions. So if you have any questions at this point, you can start putting them on the chat. We're going to go back to ask the presenter just to finish up with the presentation with a few more, just I think 5 minutes or 10 minutes max. We'll go into the Q&A proper. I think because of time, I'm just looking at time right now. But just one or two more questions, Nelly, for yourself. So, what is your typical work day like in terms of working remotely for a US company? How does that work day look like? And how do you manage communication across different time zones?
Okay, so my work hours is EST, PST, and CST. It's all about how you manage it. So that in Nigeria is like 2, 3, and 5. And then I close by 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So when people typically in Nigeria are waking up to go to work, I'm just preparing to sleep.
Okay, that's good. So if you want to give us 3 practical steps, someone who is just starting their journey into remote working, right? I really want to explore this. I really want to look into what would be those 3 key steps, or maybe it could be more than 3. Those 3 high bullet points the person needs to.
LinkedIn optimization, your resume, your 1-minute intro video. You have these 3 things. You submit it to the right platforms that are not generally public. Again, you want to find it, you can't just find it like that. They're not generally public. You get first assessments, get interviewed. Somehow, one way you get into the global talent pool. It may take some time. I won't lie. I got one job in February. I got another one in April. And then between July and November, I got about 5 more. So they just keep coming. But your job is to make sure you are in as many places as you can. So they never stop. And you have the leverage to pick. Remember, even if for any reason you enter into any company, you have to be very careful the impression you leave if you want to exit that company. Don't destroy the pathway for other possible Nigerians that are coming in. Because one person, if they flag us, this person is not good, they will cancel that entire country from that global talent pool, and that's bad business. So remember that you are not only representing yourself, you are representing an entire nation of people that want to earn like you. Don't get in there and spoil it for the rest of the human beings. That's
that's very, very important. I think because of time, Naomi, do you want to jump into this conversation? We want to go straight into Q&A. I know you want to talk about the CV, but that's fine. I think we could. I think that is being you mentioned it a few times already. Naomi, you're there, right? We want to bring you into the conversation. We just go straight into Q&A. There are a couple of questions already on the chat. Naomi, you there? Paloma, I can see you flagging yourself. Okay, that's fine. Let's go into the Q&A proper. We could
Sorry, I was
let
mute.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go into the Q&A
Okay.
proper. I think you listened to the some of the feedback. You want to say one or two things before we go into the Q&A?
Yeah.
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead, please.
Yes, absolutely. It was really lovely hearing from Nelly. Obviously, some of the things that she mentioned in, alignment with what I touched on. The global talent pool is very essential. Find a way to get yourself into like recruiter-led spaces. Um, keep your work outlook pristine, your LinkedIn profile optimized, your online presence should be reflective of who you want your employer to see firsthand, because that's the first impression of you that they have. They're not ever going to meet you face to face. So you have to keep that in mind when with your online presence. Obviously what I already touched on as well in terms of the time zone differences. If you're going to work for companies in America, you have to mentally, prepare yourself of the different time zones and how, like she said, you could be working 3 a.m. to 12 p.m. and things like that. And just sort of keep a good overall online presence, like a healthy online presence,
Hmm.
um, as a professional. So
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. That is correct. Yeah, because a lot of people don't see the importance of LinkedIn. But if you're looking for a job, an international role, LinkedIn is so important. Because that's the only, I think, social media for corporate that corporates tend to look into. So this is
yeah,
really, really important that a lot of people I've helped some people talking to that come to like minds, and I find that those that are coming from Nigeria or from emerging markets within Africa, they don't have a good LinkedIn profile. Most don't even have any at all because most of these emerging markets they don't really use LinkedIn as a proper means of a channel to secure roles and also to build their online profile. But if
mm,
you're looking for a job, you're exposing yourself to the international space, your LinkedIn profile cannot be overemphasized. So it has to be optimized.
absolutely.
People log on to LinkedIn, just use it. They use a they're not properly dressed, put it that way, and it's some of them is really, really bad. And that is we cannot overemphasize that. So let's go into the questions. Let me open up the chat. If you have any questions, please put on the chat so I can read the questions, so that we can have Naomi to address some of the questions and also Nelly to also have some input as well. Let me open. Where is my chat here? Where is it now? Is it coming up? Let me see.
There's a lot of questions in
Good
the
questions,
chat
right? I'm just
already.
trying
I
to see
want
how
to
I
start
can
from the top and just kind of do as
everyone.
much
Okay.
as
Please get a recording. Please, I'm interested in video. Okay, I'm interested in video recorded version. That's fine. We'll try and get that across. Please, can I get the slides? We'll try to see what we can do on that fact as well. Question for Naomi. Say, what app would you recommend that allow me to record my screen? Record on my screen. I work so
okay.
as to be able to bill my clients. Oh, okay. I use Toggle, but it does not meet the screen
Mm,
recording need. Thanks again for
okay.
your awesome presentation. I
Okay.
recommend to allow maybe you want to comment on that in terms of
Yeah,
the
I'm happy to take
recordings.
that on.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, so I don't think Toggle is actually set up for actual screen recording in terms of like screen captures and things like that. But if you want to explicitly record your screen to provide maybe your client proof of work and things as such, you want to look at platforms like Time Doctor. I think Time Doctor is very, very efficient for that. And you can actually link it to I think Google accounts and have like and create like a shared calendar in that way. There might be some in-app purchases. I'm not too sure. Another good one would be Hubstaff. Hubstaff is good for like proving and showing verifiable presence. It has fewer privacy issues, and you can just kind of it's easier. It's more user friendly basically
Hmm.
for such tasks. But if you still feel like you need clarity, I'm happy to share you the link, or if you just go online, yeah, she'll be able to get access
All
directly.
right. And the question for Ugo is saying, what professional skill is in high demand for remote jobs? What professional skill
Google.
is in high demand?
I think this is subjective in itself because professional skills in what fields and in what sectors specifically But if you're talking about, I guess, on a more global, like, wider scale, I think a lot of data analysis skills are in high demand. I think as an analyst in general, you're in high demand. If you now have specific, you know, I guess specific training with regards to Python, SQL. If you're good with Power BI, that's a really common one as well. Some of these skills you can get training on, but they actually require you to complete a course, like paid courses. So if you're not conversant with it, or if you don't have background knowledge from maybe uni or a course you studied before, you would have to maybe start on a beginner level to kind of work up your skill set in those areas. Another area of high demand is cloud and infrastructure development. So if you're a cloud engineer, if you're a cloud delivery manager, you're good. You're in the right niche for remote working, because these are some of the roles that don't even require you to ever show up to the company. Just be where you are and deliver on your projects. Cybersecurity is another big one. It's really in high demand. Cloud, cyber, AI, optimization, and integration is another one, because obviously a lot of companies are wanting to move to ethical AI, not the chat GPT now. I'm talking about professional AI, the opposite of ChatGPT, really. And those are what the ATS systems that companies put in their job portals when you apply, that screen your application, that fish out AI CVs and more organic ones. And so yeah, these are some of the areas that are in high demand in terms of professional skill sets. So
Okay.
just brush yourself up. If you're more um sector based, then obviously you would want to do a deep dive into what is prevalent in your sector if you're
Mm.
healthcare or something else. But yeah, this is just like on a global scale.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. If you're in a particular profession, you could check online and see if there are remote roles within aligns with your profession. I think it might be a good way to go. I have a question for Nelly. So the first question says, as a remote worker whose boss pays in dollars, how will I be able to receive my salary?
Okay, so most of these companies pay me USD, and some of these companies may ask you what platform is okay for you. If, for example, you are the first global talent hire, independent contractor hire. However, if they already have independent contractors, some of them could already have platforms they use. We're talking Deal, Terra, Wise, Pioneer. There are so many of these. Sorry,
Go
can
on,
you
please.
hear
Sorry.
me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so there are so many of these platforms. It always depends on what your company is using. They may already have something they are using or have an agreement with that does their compliance for them. That's fine. If you are their first global talent hire, they will tell you to suggest. And when they tell you to suggest, my suggestion to everyone is Wise, because, well, the fee is favorable for us and for them, or Terra. And you can easily know how to handle it in a case whereby they tell you you'll be the one handling every other person that is coming after you, which was my situation. So it just depends. But you receive your money in USD, you create a DOM account here, and you can move your money from your HR account to your DOM account.
Right. Okay. Okay. What about the other means of receiving funds? Are there things like which other ones could that be then? Or
Local,
not plan.
yes,
Sorry,
you can receive locally as well.
locally as well, right? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Anyway, let's go into. Someone asked what are the platforms you use in getting remote jobs. Um, I think Naomi has shared a few platforms already in the group. I'll try and get the slides and share it across. I think he's already covered up several of them already in her presentation. And John Okorocha is asking, how does having LinkedIn profile help in getting remote jobs? I think that is a no-brainer. That's covered up already. That is very, very helpful in that process. He says, is preparing your CV for remote jobs, do you include your location? Yeah, you don't have to go with that. you include your location in preparing
Um,
for a remote job.
yeah, use EMEA.
What's EMEA?
Your first,
Europe is Middle East and Africa, so it gives you like a wider range.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say on the back of that, actually, you don't need to put your location on your
Mm,
CV. Keep it as broad as possible to give you more opportunities. But because what you do when you put your direct location, you limit yourself to sort of region specific roles.
mm,
And companies that are generally open to taking you regardless might just filter you out of, not necessarily because you're not qualified, but just because you've been filtered out by the region. So, like
mm,
Nelly said, EMEA, just Europe, Middle East, and Africa is a good bracket
mm.
to stay within. Obviously, yeah, that's just
Does
explains all of that.
your mobile number not give you away if it says that if you're in Nigeria, for instance, right, and it says oh you're in India, for instance, +91 +234 does not give you away, or do you have to get like a soft number to give the
Not
impression as if maybe
necessarily. No, you don't
okay
even need your mobile number on your phone because that's personal information. Based on
yeah
like GDPR practices and all that, your email address should be sufficient.
okay
However, if you have like maybe an online presence, like a website, you have like a call function on it, you can put like, your call function activates, and then if they need to reach you, then that's another way. Otherwise, I think your email should suffice because they can make calls on online with your email address alone and speak to you without having your mobile. So
mm.
again, location does not need to be on your CV, your mobile, not necessarily. But if you're comfortable leaving it on, then that absolutely works as well. It doesn't necessarily discredit you. It's just your personal information that is not required in the process.
Would they feel that you're hiding something if you don't put how they can reach you? Maybe only on your emails. Is trying to hide something?
Um,
Do you think so?
as I said, it's immaterial
Oh,
to you getting the
let's
job.
have
So
Nelly. What are your thoughts
Nelly, do
then?
you want to give your thoughts on this one as well?
sorry, what was his question?
Around
Having your
your
mobile on your
mobile
CV, like because of the
Having my
country or
what?
the dialing code, your mobile
mobile
number
number
on your CV because of the country code and the
or your
the
location as well,
region
your
might be
CV, your
given
country
away in
where
your
you're
CV.
based.
It depends. It depends. Like she said, you don't have to have your phone number there. Really,
Mm,
you can and you cannot. It's by choice. The EMEA I was focusing on was more or less your last two experiences in your resume, so that it's a wider range. But the phone number there, the phone number not there, doesn't matter. I put mine sometimes, and then I put mine when I noticed that there was something against Nigeria. So it depends. It really, really depends, But I cannot deny where I'm from. So sorry, I'm a full package. Is it that you take me from where I am or you don't?
You don't. I like that. I like that very well. Okay, Kat, let's another question. It said, which app gives you the bright background and outlook? Um, Nelly, they seem to like your background though. Someone likes your background. Salome Okoye likes your background. Say which background gives you a very bright outlook and make you look nice. But I think you kind of get a lovely picture or something of a corporate picture, put in your background. I think
I
makes you
will send it on the
do that.
platform. I
Okay,
would
that's good.
also send you, John, I would also send you a PDF document.
Hmm,
It's more or less going to be like a gift to everyone who joined here on
okay,
how they can create their profile picture for their LinkedIn
fantastic.
using
Yeah.
ChatGPT. I'm not too sure if ChatGPT free it could generate the right picture because
Hmm.
I use paid, but it depends. So I would send that as well to you, John, so you can put it on
I
the
know
platform, and that
ChatGPT
would
can really enhance your picture, make it look really, really good. I think that's also
it,
very helpful as well.
if I switch off my camera right now, that picture was generated by ChatGPT just with my face.
Really? Right.
That's all.
So we can see some okay questions we can have. It says, what professional skill? Okay, we've done that already. Is there a possibility of knowing what salary range? It all depends on the job anyway. So pass on
Yeah,
that.
most
I
of those
won't get it.
jobs, especially for those global talent pools, they always put a figure range, 1.5 to 2,000, 800 to 1.5. Please, this is one information that I always give in the company I partner with. Do not be too greedy, especially if you're getting into the industry for the first time. And don't shoot too high. If they say 800 to 1.5, stay in the middle. Be very humble, even if you're not humble, and say, I will start at 1.1 because I believe I can prove myself. And in the next 3 months, can we discuss increments? Make sure you are clear in the interview. It shows that you're trying to prove to them that they are what they need. I always tell everyone, the day you start regarding yourself as an asset and not an employee, a solution to a problem, that is when you begin to better position yourself to stand out globally anywhere you are.
That's
You
very
are
good.
competing against so many people in different other countries that, well, their money value is same thing as Nigeria. But you need to be that person that an employer wants. So your words, whatever you say, has to sell you. Don't be greedy. When you get into the company, you must open your mind. You must learn. Nothing is beyond learning. Learn, 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 learn. You can never stop learning. And all that only builds you for better positioning, because I started at 1,000 or 800. I can't tell how much I am on right now. So it depends. It's a gradual process. You will get there, but don't be greedy.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's very good. One thing, very good question someone asked now, in terms of visa restrictions. If I'm looking for a job in the US, right, or in the UK, I'm based in Africa, let me use Africa, or based in Asia, do they require visa to be able to work, or work right to be able to work in those countries? Or if I'm based in the UK, I'm going to get a job in the US, do they
Yeah.
require work visa to be able
Do
to
you want
work
me
there?
to answer this,
Yeah,
John?
go ahead. Yes, please.
Okay. So I have to be very direct and honest with you about this. If you are applying for region-specific roles, you have to provide right to work or work permits for those specific regions. Ergo, you cannot apply for a US-specific role from Nigeria. You will not qualify because you will not be able to provide the right to work for that region. So you would want to focus on jobs that are either open globally or that are actually open to your region, because there are US based companies as a standard that want to recruit from Nigeria. And those are the type of roles that would be advertised for you in that way. So unless you have a way of providing a right to work in, even if you live in the UK, you can't work in America just because it's remote, because there's also things of like tax purposes that you have to factor in. You wouldn't be able to provide the HMRC or the tax code for that job, and that could be getting you in trouble. You don't want to have a fraud case just because you're trying to make ends meet or you're trying to elevate your career. So always stick to the region specific that you're applying for, or the roles that are open globally, or EMEA, like Nelly pointed out. So there's a lot of niche, fields and, areas, but right to work is such a, important part of it that cannot be overlooked. So don't apply. Don't apply unless you have the right to work for jobs in America while you're in Nigeria. It
Yeah.
would just, seem like
So,
potential fraud. And then, what could happen is recruiters could flag your, profile, because you would also be going into their ATS systems. So the more of those jobs you apply, the more, your how's it called, your visibility in those backend systems show up. So it's like this person is trying to apply to jobs that they know they're not qualified for, or that they know that they're not able to work in. So that kind of can give you a negative outlook. Like Nelly said, your online profile is your key, because think about LinkedIn as your online office. Nobody's going to come and meet you in your actual domicile location. So everything that you do online is pivotal, in getting you the professional outlook that you want to have. So yeah, that would just be my take around right to works and the region specific roles as a whole.
Nelly, how was your experience? Did they require you to get provide right to work in your experience? Okay, no, she said no.
No,
Okay.
I don't I wanted to get into the remote world. I do remember that there was something, sorry, there was something my sister said. My sister told me, get one foot in the door, and then the door will just fall down by itself. I just aimed for that. So I aimed to get even the smallest role. I do understand that in Nigeria, some of us may be head of banks, head of branches, head of organizations, top level executives. There is no way that in US, one employer is going to recruit a Nigerian sitting in your country for a head position. It is not possible. What we do is when we used to sell this global talent idea to US clients, we tell them you will get a global talent for 70% your local hire. So what they would usually get in the US. Now, you want to hire an EA, and the EA, based on where we are drawing up job descriptions as people operations, your role may not be that much, right? So it's a global talent thing. Just give it to somebody global talent. They'll just come in, do the work, and go, and they'll work your US hours. So you need to calm down. I was head of operations in Nigeria. I started with a global company and I went to EA. Come down from that ladder fast. Get in. And when you get in, you keep learning, because let me tell you something, working in the US system is entirely, or any other system, I'm familiar with US, it's entirely a different ball game completely. They're using so many AI tools. You're going to have to ramp fast your deliverables, your end states, the way you communicate. Everything is completely different. So you have to literally like unlearn what you have learned and start learning again. So
Okay.
please remember, to get into the world, you have to come down from your high horse. And yeah.
On that question, though, there's a question that's come through from Onye, and maybe get Naomi's thoughts. Are there senior level opportunities in remote working, or is it just for just low
Yeah.
skill? Not, I won't say low skill, but more on a more junior
Entry
level.
level. Yeah, no, absolutely there are. And then just on the back of what Nelly said, I wanted to also say that if you do want to absolutely get those jobs outside of your region, um, I would look at companies in the multinational space. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Microsofts, the Googles. I have people, in my network that have started with Microsoft Nigeria, or they've taken roles that Microsoft had to offer in Nigeria, and with time and with productivity, they've been able to, get into a different region on the back of that same company. So Microsoft can sponsor you to now come to America or to now come to the UK, but you have to build that work relationship, and you have to be able to prove yourself in that workspace. There are definitely high level roles as well. However, those are very more niche in terms of like, there are companies that want to hire like a finance manager, for example, in Nigeria, right? So if you're in the banking sector and you're maybe a customer relationship manager in a branch, or head of CRM or whatever in the branch, those are some of the roles that are more high level that an entry level candidate cannot go for anyways. So there are companies that are looking to do things as such, in the different regions, and you will definitely qualify. So for example, maybe Hennessy or Coca-Cola, they're looking for a global regional finance. So those are some of the roles, and they're remote. They offer hybrid working, or if they're not fully remote. So those are some of the ways that you can get your foot in the door, like Nelly said, and kind of pivot into like the more global space if you're happy to relocate. But for some people, that's not the goal. They want to stay, domicile, like Nelly, for example, and they want to be able to work remotely. So it's all about finding what fits your goal and kind of staying within, the structure and the strategy of attaining that goal. But I will say that the high level roles exist, and the low, the entry level roles also there are, abundant. So it's about what aligns best, and yeah, that's
Aligns
just my
on the level of skill you currently have, right? You're bringing in. So there's another question very interesting. It says, how do I participate in a structured program and get certifications? I think more on the certifications. In terms of, I know it depends on your profession where you're looking at anyway. I know there are different certifications based on each profession. So I know that quite broad. So if I'm saying what kind of certification you have, it all depends on which area of expertise or what area you're trying to get into. So it's a bit tricky one, but nevertheless, that's the question someone asked. Maybe I'll go. They say what platforms?
okay.
I know Nelly talked about some platforms that are not necessarily in the public space, and say how do they get to know about those platforms? So I don't know if you want to give us some tips.
Me?
Yeah, you have any. Someone asked a question. What platforms are those that you mentioned that are not necessarily in the public space?
Okay, so like I said, these companies are startup companies, right? They are not out there yet, but they are behind certain major recruitment companies that are out there. Now, the first thing I would always advise, we Nigerians who love to jump. We want to just get there fast, always. The first thing I would always advise, because I personally am very particular about the Nigerian image, and I want our best foot forward always. Just to divert a bit, when I was told to submit 3 global talent candidates to a US client for the role of sales development representative, when I was going through the talent pool, I did see some Nigerians, but what I was seeing as their first impression was not meeting the criteria, because probably they just saw it, a link. They just said, okay, let me just do a video. Okay, yes, I've done my video, and they just sent it. And maybe it just somehow got through. Somehow it got through into the talent pool. Nobody will ever pick that client to match you with a US, pick that candidate to match you with a US client, even as a recruiting person, because it is your name on your head is likely to roll. So you need to, first of all, start with the first step. In everything, let us start with the first step. Let's not jump. Work on your outlook, your profile, your public image, your resume, your 1-minute intro video, your best foot forward, your internet, your camera. Everything has to be top notch. When you get that, the jobs will come to you. As long as you're with John, the jobs will come to you. As long as you're with John. So that I can assure you. Unfortunately, due to certain legal things, I can't just put it out there just like that.
I understand. It's fair
So
enough.
that is why we must start from somewhere. Like I said, John, I would also inform you, send you the information about the company I partner with. They run a 3-week cohort. So they're teaching them of AI, how to review their LinkedIn, how to work on their targeted resume, how to build their targeted resume, especially if they see a job that they feel, I know how to do this job. I believe I can do it. How they can make sure their resume passes the ATS machine. We have so many ATS machines in the US, Bullhorn, there's so many. And these tools, if we have 300 applicants, only 22 will I pick out that have passed through this app, and then I will give it to the recruiters to sort. Only 22, which means 200 and something have gone. That is why your first step is very important. So no jumping. Let's take it a step at a time. And I'm sure within 2 months or even less, we are going to have quite a number of people in this group that are going to land their remote jobs. God willing.
Somebody should say amen to that. I can see Zune is excited about that. So
Men
a
and
couple of
amen,
questions.
oh.
Amen. Okay, right. So let's get into few more. We're
Amen.
going to round up very, very soon. I just want to take a couple of questions at one go. Let's see. Someone asked, does gender matter a lot in remote working jobs, which is unlikely? I was talking about PayPal as a way of getting payment, which is probably true. Someone asked, is basic knowledge of SQL, PowerPoint, Python, proficiency in Excel, accounting skills, do I stand a chance if I have a basic knowledge in those tools? I want to maybe I'll allow you to comment on those. Then one more, please. What?
So
Okay, go
I
ahead.
wouldn't, it's good if you have those knowledges, right? I wouldn't want to, however, for those who don't have it, I wouldn't want to overwhelm you. Some people can't probably afford that training, right? Let's talk about the basic experience you have right now. There's some people that are probably admin officers in some organizations or low level roles or head of operations or financial heads or something. Let's think about getting you into the door first, where you will be the top pick. You do know that when you have a lot of experience, if I have 5 people and you have so much experience, I will pick you first. So try to get your feet into the door. So if you see an EA role and you don't have an SQL experience, a BI, I didn't have any of that. I don't even intend on doing so. I didn't have any of that. But if you don't push yourself too much. You have already done some work. As long as you have some years of experience, 3, 4, 5 years, and you documented everything very well, you can work on your CV and you will be selected. You have 10, 11, 15, 20 years. We have a new company that just wants to open another global talent company. And those ones, we are targeting from 11 years above to hire as global talents. Now, those people, their pay grade will be higher. We'll be talking maybe 3,000, 4,000. Normally, we'll be talking 2 years, 3 years, we'll be talking 800 to 1.5 USD. So it all depends on your level. It all depends. No pressure. Start somewhere.
Okay.
Just first step first. That's what I would advise.
A couple of questions here. There are people asking, send us the WhatsApp group link. We have a WhatsApp group. So because you mentioned that, Nelly, maybe Kemi, if you can help me share the WhatsApp group link to the general group. So in case anyone wants to join the WhatsApp group for the remote jobs thing, and they could join. I think you have the link, right? I think you have the latest link, isn't it? Otherwise, I'll send that to you again. But see if you can share that. There are a couple of questions around does the remote jobs does it have to be full time or is it part time only? In terms of that, it can be full time, right? So let's just be quick on
Yes, it
that
has
question.
full-time, part-time,
Part time as well,
freelance,
right? Okay, cool.
project-based contract.
Someone to ask, can someone being in the construction industry work in remote job? You've done everything, you have all the LinkedIn profile. Can you work in remotely if you're in construction space?
Yes,
I
you
don't
can.
have. You can. Is it
Yes, you
possible?
can. Because in that construction company, you have done some documentation. You have filed some reports. You have basically done some administrative tasks. Everything can be translated to match something. What I do personally for some people that I did their resume with is I went to the global talent pool and I pulled out all the titles of jobs we needed. When I did that, my AI, I made it parse all the resumes and give me the top 3 roles that the person's profile can fit based on what was available, was being posted for jobs or in the global talent pool. That is how I now said, okay, this is what we are going to put or retweak your CV to match. These are the jobs you will apply to because you have some experience of that particular role in your existing experience, whether it's a contractor whatever it is, frankly, or construction worker, whatever. There is something about another role inside your experience.
Right. I'm just conscious of time. There's a lot of questions still on the chat. I will have to call it a day. I will ask Kemi, can you share because I know there have been more inquiries, right? You need additional support and how you can reach out to yourself and Naomi and also to Kelly, to Nelly for additional support. In terms of you need that help with CV revamping, LinkedIn optimization, help with the videos. Those generals, not everybody is that proficient in getting around this space. We're going to send a chat. I'm going to send like a form, Google form on the chat. Can you go fill out that form? There's going to be a link. Just fill out that form, your details, and maybe your details, and maybe a query. I have just a place for query where you could ask any questions. Or alternatively on the invite that was sent across to you. I think you can respond on the back of that. There's a Google form there. Fill out your details. We're happy to reach out to you. We have your since you register, most of you register, we'll send you an email with the presentation slides. If you have any questions or support, feel free to come on the back of that. But I think there's a Google form right now on the chat, and just fill in your details there. See how we can reach out to you and provide additional support. We can't really cover all the questions today, but I think it has been. I want to believe that it's been very helpful. For someone asked about the CV, all that we could see how we can provide you a template CV. I know. Now we talk about your CV. We couldn't look at the CV, but we're happy to share with you a template as a guide as well. But don't forget, we think about CV. Everything depends on your current profession, what you currently do. So no one CV fits everything, but structure could be very identical. But in terms of the CV, a lot has to do with your current skill. And if you're applying for remote jobs, you can't just use one template. I've seen so many times people make that mistake. Just use one template and just be applying for all kinds of jobs just with one template. That will never work as well. You must always learn to use AI to tweak your CV before you apply. It streamlines your CV to get the best chance of being called for an interview. So I think the Google form is there. Please fill it up and share with your details. We will happy to reach out to you and engage with you before that as regards any kind of support that you think you might need as if you want to go into this space. And I can see many people have joined the WhatsApp group. I'm going to try to approve you guys to join the group. We'll try and share a bit more tips and share more opportunities. Like I said, it's not something you jump into. Something I like to give a last word of advice for people wanting to get into this space from Naomi and also from Nelly. We have tendency to be wanting to be work overnight, not overnight, but if you don't get a job within 1 week or 2 weeks, we get frustrated. I've seen people get into this space within 1 month, they get tired. Say, I don't want to continue anymore. I'm tired. It's not working. It's not working. What advice will you need to give to people? How many jobs did they need to apply for every day? On the average, what they need to do? Do they need to give up after 1 month, 2 months? It doesn't work for them, and they hold their hands up. What advice do you need to provide to anyone who has been trying, possibly, in this space and not getting a breakthrough? Just to run it up. So I'll go with you first, and
Okay. Just to share my view on that. I think being in the job market is a tedious thing, and it's like a full-time job in itself. So you have to come prepared with the mindset that you have a goal to achieve. And, that has to be the motivation behind you showing up every day. Nobody I know has gotten the first job ever that they applied for. And even if they did, that doesn't mean that there was no a better job somewhere waiting for them. But they also had to apply to get that better one. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So obviously keeping that in mind, it is like an effort driven is an effort driven thing where you have to kind of keep at it. Even if you find the job that gets your foot in the door, you would still realize that there's more opportunities out there. Like there's thousands and thousands of companies spending thousands and billions of there's billions in circulation. Companies are spending money to make money. And so part of that process of spending money to make money is hiring talent and trying to get people to complete the businesses and projects that they have to do to get that money back in circulation anyways. So it is an ongoing thing. However, it is a process. And just because you're not a good fit for company A doesn't mean that you're not the best fit for company XYZ. So you kind of have to come with a mindset that there is a goal in sight that is for you to get what it is that you want that best fits you. So it's not going to happen in a day. That's highly unlikely. But it could take 1 month for someone else. It could take 6 months. It could take 8 months for another person. Okay, so I'm a recruiter and I know how even like just working salaried roles, it takes up to 2 months for you to get from your application to even onboarding. And now, depending on the nature of the role, like obviously more senior level roles take longer times to process application because we're looking at pools of like 100 applications. Recruiters are filtering through thousands and thousands of applications to get to you. So as long as you're making the efforts, you would see the progression over time, and it will also build your experience in how you navigate the job markets, how you navigate interviews. You only get better at showing up to these things and showing up in this type of spaces over time anyways. So obviously keeping that in mind is not a magical thing. You'd get in you when you align with the best job for you.
Yeah.
So
Agree.
yeah.
Thank you, Nami. Nelly.
Okay. So to conclude, I will literally just mention 3 important things or practical steps. Someone who wants to get into this journey today, tomorrow can start. The first thing is to reposition how you see yourself. You are not a job seeker. You are a solution to a problem of an employer. You are an asset. Before you touch your resume, ask, what specific problem do I want to solve in terms of when you see a job description? What outcomes have I delivered that will make me the top candidate? And then rebuild your entire professional identity around that answer. That's the first step. The second step is for you to learn the system, not just the job boards. So it's not links and just apply. Remote work has a structure. There are talent pools. There are contractor pipelines. There are client rotation cycles. Understanding this means you are never blindsided by the end of a contract. Mind you, independent contractor means I can fire you in a day. I can literally call a global talent on a call and fire you. I did that for 2 people, and it was not an amazing experience. So you are already positioning yourself to make sure you are never blindsided. And in case of such, your first foot is always up and you always have another one ready to go into. The last one. When you are applying to jobs, apply with consistency and patience. The offer you accept in April may come from an application you submitted in December or January the previous year. Don't measure effort by immediate results. Build your pipeline, work on yourself, and trust the process. Start with your mindset. Change your mindset. Build your system, then execute every single day. Growing your LinkedIn connections, working on your outward appearance, doing small things to make sure you put yourself out there so that by the time you apply and somebody or a recruiter wants to verify your profile, I'm not going to your profile and saying, this is nonsense. I'm going to your profile and saying, okay, let me see this person's video next, because I've verified that this person is a human being that they say they are, right? So to conclude, my takeaway always is change your positioning, start regarding yourself as an asset, and The jobs will come after you. You won't go after the jobs. That I can guarantee you. But it's patience and consistency. I didn't start in one day to be where I am now. And I didn't expect where I am now for me to even be where I am now. So it takes consistency and patience. Have this in mind, and everybody will get there. There's enough dollars to go around.
Thank you so much. I think it's been fantastic. I think I want to appreciate and Naomi, our presenter for today. She's just been fantastic delivery. This presentation I've been going to do it for the past almost 1 year, and I struggled to find a speaker. And I think I just I sent a broadcast to all like man's member, and I think Naomi came on board to handle this presentation. So I think it's been fantastic. I'm really so glad, and thank you, Nelly, for taking time off work as well, also to help us with this your testimonial. I think everyone has shared a lot of very good feedback in terms of the engagement. You can see the round of applause going on the street on the screen. I really thank you, and we want to take more positive steps. I like what you said, and then in terms of see yourself not just as an employee but as a solution provider. I think how you interview go a long way in terms of getting you through the door and breaking through. Even if you have a good CV, a good LinkedIn profile, how you perform in the interview it's so important as well. Test your video, how you comport yourself, all those go a long way, allow you to see scale you through the door. And on this note, I want to thank everyone for joining. This webinar is put together by hosted by Like Minds. We are an African professional network in the UK. We aim at providing manpower development and support to Africans within the diaspora by way of career development, by way of support people's career. We've grown. We're about over 250 in the group so far. In the network, and we provide support. We are more UK based, and we decide to have something that is a bit more global. Hence, we're having this webinar today. So, on behalf of Like Minds, maybe I will share. I don't have details, but anyway, I'm sure in the invite you saw our website details. You can feel free to reach out to us if you want to join. If you want to be part of Like Minds as well. Thank you, everyone, and then we'll do another webinar sometime in a couple of months. If something comes up that needs to go general, we have meetings monthly, but our meetings more get towards supporting ourselves within the network. Or time to time, we share something that is more with external for all external members to also come in and also to join as well. Let me see if I can put in the Like Minds. Think of MakeMind.org or something, right? So anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining today's webinar, and let's have another catch up again soon. So don't forget to send your inquiries. You can go on the back of the Google form, or you can put your inquiries on the chat as well. We're happy to address them as we progress. Thank you so much, and have a good evening, everyone, for wherever you're joining. And thank you again, Naomi. Thank you, Nelly, for your presentation. And bye now.
Thank you, Mr. John. That's a great one. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Looking forward to seeing you all in the remote market space.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Bye, John. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Thank
you, John.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Bye. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So I'm gonna log off
Thank
now.
you, sir.
Okay, bye
Thank
now.
you for the entire
Bye-bye.
team. Bye. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.